And we're back, snipping it forward to the new year.
Already? Don't tell me that. Time's gone. This year has gone so fast already, dude.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird that it is almost 2018.
That Thanksgiving is already in the past.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe that'll come up next month. That'll be fun. Oh, no, it's Christmas.
You know what? I'd like to give some post-Thanksgiving thanks to you because you're a good man. You did a good thing this week.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of good things, we can't yet, but right now let's talk about Garo. No, I mean, it was all right. There's certainly, I voted to kill it, but there's certainly a lot of other stuff I would have preferred to die before it, so I'm not too broken up that it's getting another week, because it could still course correct. But, yeah, this episode, though, this should have been, this is the first, big fight scene. This should have been oh, fuck yeah, finally all this buildup is paying off. And it did not feel that way, kind of at all. The horrors have already just not been a threat for a while, and now that Mei Fong, who's barely been in the show up until now, can just waste 50 of them without trying.
But that's not fair. Mei Fong had a weapon to do that. She didn't do it, via her kung fu action, which we've already seen she can, at least spar with sword.
But it's still implying this weapon was there, so where was the threat?
Yeah. This is the alien to aliens, this thing where one of them was a big scary thing. Now 50 of them are getting mowed down like nothing, except that the horrors were never intimidating to begin with because Sword was murdering them with no effort. So why have I been watching 8 episodes of this?
You're not wrong there. I mean, I was looking at these horrors less as the traditional monster horrors we've been getting week to week, and more like putties, more like the if Sword could probably kill 50 of these with one swing of his actual sword. But that being said, I actually agree with you to at least the extent that there didn't feel like a whole lot of thread going on here, except for when what's his face. Wow, I'm forgetting his name. Sword's friend, the one with the trench coat.
Luke,
yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like he's a boring nothing character, a blank character-shaped hole where a character should be.
Would you believe that I actually like his English version better because I feel like his actor gives him a much better edge to this generic-sounding actor they've got in the Japanese version?
They could hardly make him worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when Luke gets wasted, I was like, okay, that's actually kind of cool. It's nice to see Luke, although it also is so is Sword really just the best guy they've got? Also, where's Gina?
Yeah.
I mean,
this episode could have used some fucking Gina.
Yeah, I felt like the last time we saw Gina was episode 5, was it?
Something like
yeah. She's barely been a character at all, and that's kind of disappointing because I kind of felt like she was supposed to be the third of this trio when it's just kind of not been the case.
No, they just seem to be interchangeable cogs for whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
And at this point on episode the 8th, I don't care about anybody. And that's not good.
Yeah, I mean,
the most engaging person, the only human character I really enjoy or want to see anything from is Sophie, and she's the only one I'm curious to go. Okay, what are you gonna do? Because everyone else is too crazy for me. I can't. There's nothing I can grab onto.
They're not crazy enough for me. That's my.
There's nothing there. There's nothing for me to grab onto. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. And one of my problems with this is that it's not wacky enough. It's middling. It's trying to be oh yeah, we have this serious villain who betrayed the Makai Knights. And I'm like, okay, your story isn't nearly good enough for this to feel like it's something important.
Makais are just overpriced blueberries for assholes.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
Actually, it's pronounced Masai, first of all. And secondly, if it were crazier, if I felt like we're more off the wall, then I might get a laugh out of it, and the action might just be fun and enjoyable. But yeah, no, it keeps trying to have its cake and eat it too of having this these over-the-top characters, but this down-to-earth storyline. And I'm like, no, I don't care about the Makai Knights. It has maybe if I'd watched the first Garo all the way through. Maybe if I really cared about the Garo story.
That's the thing is maybe if we had more exposure than just this might have some more weight to it, which is something I've been wondering about. Is if we're missing something from either the original or any of the other anime versions, but it doesn't seem that way because they're. But even then, like when we get the suit, which should be this really big thing, it comes down with this fart of a bonk.
Okay,
You know?
that I actually disagree with because there's a scene. This scene made this whole episode for me because, by the way, I hate the CG suit thing. I'm not a fan of it. Like, I actually actively dislike it, but they have a scene in here that's insane. It's this long tracking shot where it's the same camera the entire time as it pans around these guys having this fight. And it goes on for nearly 30 seconds of them just doing these moves and throwing each other and rushing each other. And I loved that scene. If that scene hadn't been in this, I might have killed it. But I was actually really impressed by that whole tracking shot.
I'm not talking about I'm talking about how he gets the suit. He just walks up and goes.
Oh.
There's no henshin.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean. For a
Yeah,
toku show, there's no henshin. There's no fun.
Yeah,
here.
actually,
That's my point.
I also felt no tension.
There's no henshin.
There's no henshin, there's no tension. And
I think you said it best, Kieran, when you were compared this to Avengers 2.
Yes, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, literally in my notes, I said this feels like the third act of every superhero movie where there's a big sky beam and a couple of CGI dudes punching each other with no weight or impact or stakes. Just a ancient Egyptian laser beams bullshit fest.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's not a good part of any superhero movie, and that's not a good this entire episode.
Yeah, it really suffers from having nothing else here because we've had episodes that were desperately needing action. Mm-hmm. This is the opposite of the equation. This one desperately needed something else injected into it.
Some plot, some character
anything.
hook,
and I never thought I would think that.
it is very possible that if next week, like, I know that they're going to take a week to reflect, but if it is not something that really actually makes me care about these characters, which I fully doubt it's going to be, I don't think I'm going to be giving it the fuck next week. Mm-hmm. But it got it from me this week because it gave me some stuff that I really enjoyed in terms of the action, the animation, and again, that big old tracking shot. But I actually agree with you. No, that henshin sucked.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's how he calls down his armor there. Like, this is supposed to be a tokusatsu show. Part of that is the grandeur of, like,
look how
summoning
cool the
armor.
suit is because it looks awesome. They do so little with, like, the showing it off. Like, that's kind of the part. And I know it's like how marketing toys, that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
But it's like that you don't indulge in the stuff that is cool in your show. How am I supposed to feel any connective tissue with that?
I'm pretty sure Sailor Moon or any of those magical girl shows would not, like, they only save the instant transformation for, like, the big scenes where shit's going down. But otherwise, you're supposed to have that. And I don't know. It's not having enough fun. It is not having enough fun.
And that's what I want from it because, man, I was snoozing throughout this one. And it was just, oh my God, is there anything else? I just kept looking at the timer. Okay, another 5 minutes. And the fight is not wrapped up. I think we're just fighting for 20 minutes.
Well, you know what is fun? Healing the sick.
Healing the sick is pretty fun.
It's fun and it's rewarding, and sometimes it can make the darkest No, not really.
Not really.
Here's Inuyashiki.
Yes.
Inuyashiki.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah. By the way, I was like, why did that sound weird when he basically said it right? You said Inuyashiki. Yeah, Inuyashiki. And you got it right. So, hey, cool. We got it.
Yeah. But, so this, what I will say, and I criticize this, like, medium heavily for being repetitive, for not doing enough with its running time. What I will say is it's the little touches, like the one that you pointed out, where he asks, Hiro asks Shion, will this make you happy? Because he's made that shift in his mind. Like, now she is like his mother. She is family. Her happiness matters. And so he will do this for her. Stuff like that. And stuff like, I had something. You were going to say something. I'll think of it.
Yeah, no, I wholly agree with you because when we talked about the shift that there was, I don't think the shift was as quick as we think. The shift was in his feelings for them. We see in that one scene where he's thinking about killing the both of them and doesn't, is where it happens.
Yeah.
He has to make a decision of, do I care about these people? And he does.
Yeah.
So when they're unhappy and they're frustrated, he sees he's like, I want to make these people happy because they are the only people that I care about and care about me left in this whole world. And that's important because, again, nothing's going to redeem him. Like, if he actually felt remorseful and and spent the rest of his life trying to fix this, that would be a redemption for the things he did. It would never, like, you could never be friends with them, but you could be like, okay, you know what? That's actual redemption. This isn't that, though. Like, this, again, he is doing this for her because he cares about her, not because he cares about these people.
I think I remembered what I was going to say, which is that it's transactional in his mind.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
He says, oh, okay, I will save as many lives as I've taken, then I'm okay, right?
Yeah, then done.
Yeah, and that makes sense to him. Like, I've done this much bad, so I'll do this much good. Again, in this person's eyes, who this person's opinion I care about. Fuck the rest of them. And it leaves that question open to the audience where he does do so much good. And it makes you think about, well, is he redeemed? Does this make it okay? Is it worth it? Because if you ask any of those people who were healed, like, hey, the guy who healed you is kind of an asshole and he did all these horrible things, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, they wouldn't care at all.
Yeah, and I think that thematic undercurrent is fascinating, and I think that's what rescues this episode.
Yeah. The kind of subtle arc of it just constantly prying at the audience, because I felt that kind of discomfort that I think I was supposed to feel this whole episode of after the shift happens, which, as you said, I don't think was as sudden, because he is just... We know that he only does things because he enjoys people. Like, if there are certain he picks and chooses who he cares about, and he did make that choice to care about them. So that does make sense now that you brought that up. But when he's going around and saving people, I kept expecting just something to happen. Like, I was just on the edge, like, no, he can't. He's got to do something. Something bad is going to happen. I know that. Like, but nothing did. And I think that was really interesting because it paints Hiro in this way that he is really uncomfortable because we know about his past. But as you said, all these other people, he's kind of walking around like this fucking savior now. He's walking around Jesus robed up, miracle healing dudes. And it was just really cool seeing them. He had this, like, again, they love that fucking messianic imagery. And I really enjoyed that with him just kind of in the back alley healing dudes. It was really, really interesting.
There's one thing, by the way, that I've meant to bring up the last 2 weeks, but I completely spaced on, and it is a narrative dropped ball, I feel, from my perspective.
Okay.
So, not last episode, but the episode before, was a lot of Ando and Inuyashiki talking about the fact that Hiro is a danger and he needs to be stopped. We are 2 episodes later, and they've made 0 developments on that, except for the fact that
I think this was the first episode that had
none.
No Inuyashiki at all.
Yeah. And that is a narrative dropped ball to me. In terms of storytelling, yeah, that's weird. Like, they introduced that as a big deal for these 2 characters, and for all this other stuff to have gone on, it's really awkward. And in that regard, it's not a huge big deal to me. Like, because everything else that's going on is still captivating and still interesting. But...
I think it will depend on when we do catch back up with those characters, where they go with that. I think it is something where if they show up again next episode, which I very much hope it is next episode.
Yeah. I foresee that.
Yeah, that if that is awesome and knocks it out of the park, then the fact that they were largely missing from the episode before this and entirely missing from this one I think it could still feel paid off and feel earned.
Totally.
It could also be exactly like you say, like, what? Really? Now they just show up again? What?
Yeah, I don't need a cutaway of them doing bullshit for...
Which is what we got last episode.
Yeah, which I enjoyed because that episode needed that.
Yeah.
Like, which was cool. It was so tense and dire that I appreciated that. This one, I was surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised that it was only Hiro. I was not expecting for that to happen, but it was okay.
I mean, yeah, and despite my criticism... I didn't need Inuyashiki in this episode. So, again, I just feel like the setup hasn't had its follow-through. And, yeah, that's a little awkward to me. And I think, and I try not to think about this from this perspective, I know that the manga ended up getting, like, kind of cut short. And I try not to have that in my mind, but once you know that, you can't unknow it.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like, I think I see where he had to like cut some stuff out and truncate this to kind of move it towards its conclusion.
Yeah, I'm wondering how faithful this is. I'm really curious to go back and read the manga after I see this.
Me too.
Like,
Oh,
I'm totally
100%.
gonna do that because I think isn't it out here? Isn't it out in America?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'd have to look.
I don't know if a translated version's out yet, but regardless, I'm totally gonna check it out and just see how close the adaptation is because I can't unknow that either, and it makes me wonder if there was more like chapters like of just Inuyashiki kind of bumming around with superhero stuff, and then now back to hero really serious shit, and I wonder if the show cut that stuff out, like if there was actually extra meandering.
No, I think the manga, the manga got cut short. What I think is that the mangaka was planning on stuff, planning on more, and then he realized like it wasn't doing well, and they told him, yeah, you're gonna have to wrap up sooner, and so he's like, well, okay, I'm just gonna push this development along, and if that's the case, I mean, it's still good. He obviously had some plans and he rerouted, but that's why I kind of feel like there's some setup that's kind of fumbled a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely see that.
I will say that even if like this could have a real bad ending, not in the sense of the opposite of a happy ending, but it could be clumsy, it could be poorly told from this point forward, and this has still done enough amazing stuff that I would still, even if it's shit from here on out, I would still heartily recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are enough emotionally poignant moments that I don't think very few animated fiction has ever evoked from me. This show is something magical.
Yeah.
Even if it totally drops the ball, I will honestly consider that like glazed over. It'll be really good.
Almost no shows get me to cry. I
Yes.
cried in Inuyashiki. It already gets a recommendation from me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not a whole lot, I think, to really kind of unpack in this episode, but it's still Inuyashiki. It's still good.
Yep.
So speaking of things that make me cry and that I would recommend to anyone, that's definitely not King's Game. I would recommend that anyone slit their wrists before watching this garbage fire of a show. But God help us, we're gonna watch it again next week. I
Did
guess
you watch this alone?
Yes.
I
Okay.
watched it alone.
All right. Because I watched this in the company of our cameraman Tyler and my girlfriend, so I might have had a bit of a skewed perspective.
Man, no.
But holy
you
shit.
You know what? Starting next season, you're allowed to only watch these alone.
Wrong. I'm not suffering alone. I gotta suffer with you guys. Here's the thing. I get like everyone has their own metric for the clock of quality that comes back around to entertaining after it goes so far into terrible. Mine's really loose, so it doesn't have to be super.
You slut.
Well, your broken clock is right twice a day, but I'm sorry, it's not that time right now.
This was so absurd. Like
It's so nuts.
Every minute of this episode felt absurd.
It's surreal.
Like, okay, so we get Miss Burnett chick, by the way, who I think might have been in a previous episode.
I'm sure she was. I can't keep track of these
I don't
fuckers.
know.
Yeah,
Probably.
and she's like a bitch.
Yeah.
But she's also effective, and like she's like, yeah. So I learned all this fucking information, and this.
Also, she apparently just lounges around in lingerie on the reg, as women do.
Yeah. Don't they all?
Well, not women, high school girls.
Yeah. Don't they all?
Underage high school girls in
Yeah.
lingerie
Yeah.
at all times.
Yes.
Yes.
She's rich. I mean,
Oh, okay.
What else is
Yeah.
she gonna do? Anyway, so yeah, so she gets introduced, and by the way, they repeat a plot point that we already knew, just like I guess solidifying it this time. But we already knew that the letters meant something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
why.
I don't know. I don't know why we got back
Yeah,
to that.
I actually don't know why we went through all that again. Like, even from this, like, I know that the storytelling in this show is bad, but that was like,
Didn't What's-His-Face die telling What's-His-Face that?
yeah.
Probably.
And
Speaking of which, there are a lot more survivors in this class than I had thought. They
I
killed
know.
off a bunch of people last episode, and I was like, oh, good. They're like cutting away the dead weight, and now we'll have a manageable number of characters to. Oh, wait, nope. I guess there's still
Yeah,
like
there's-
15 fucking people here.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know. But so what's well, I can't remember any of their names, and I don't care to.
It doesn't matter.
Fucking Natsuko. Natsuko.
Yes.
Natsuko is the only thing that is making this show anywhere close to enjoyable for me because she is just so fucking crazy.
I hated the first time she turned and did that crazy reveal, but now that we've had this,
I hated that because of the way everyone responded around her. Because
Absolutely,
that was
yeah.
infuriatingly dumb.
Yeah.
Which I am okay with hilariously dumb and not just mean-spirited like it doesn't work
Yeah.
like this dumb. So when she's just being the villain, I'm like, okay, this, like, again, with the condom.
I know.
Why is that scene in this? How did that
so good?
When does this air?
I don't know.
But yeah, no, that scene and the fucking haircut scene. If without those scenes, it would have just been the previous episode
Absolutely.
all over again,
Yes.
and I would have been miserable.
No, but we got the condom, and we got the haircut, and the miserable animation of him breaking his finger.
See, here's the thing. The condom was funny, but it was also, like, there and gone in about 2 seconds.
It stuck around for a bit.
The haircut is no, I'm on fire and calmly talking about you. It is no head spinning all the way around and turning into Torso Boy. It's funny for 2 seconds, and then it's just boring because it just keeps happening, and I don't care.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. This isn't that episode.
No,
to
it's
me.
not at all.
Yeah, no, this still got a kill for me, and it will continue to get kills for me as long as it's still
long as it takes
Yeah,
So
as
you're
long-
biased.
to kill it.
So you're biased.
No. As long as this is still King's
So
game.
he's biased.
Yes.
Guys, I think we have... King's Game's been living on borrowed time for a while, okay? I don't think we have to sit here and pretend like...
No, if I don't laugh once in the next episode, sure. Like I didn't laugh at all last week. I'm sorry you did not get some laughs from this week. I totally get you. I was surrounded by good company that we all had a good time.
Yeah. Again, this show passed a threshold for me where I cannot recommend this, and I'm not going to fuck something that I know I'm never going to recommend.
But did you have fun?
Not enough.
Well, let's see if Kino's journey was enough fun. It wasn't. Spoiler. No, this episode was just bad. Just like plot twists for the sake of plot twists. And this was all of the things that I dislike about Kino's journey without any of the redeeming qualities, really.
Yeah. I kind of agree. It was definitely the worst episode so far for me. It had like the most interesting stuff I mentioned in the first segment was the ramifications of the radio station's gone. The coolest scene is him coming back with the photos. It's broken and no one believes him because that means they established earlier that, hey, we're just gonna put that guy in a prison cell and let him back out on the street because now they have to deal with a bunch of homicidal maniacs if that's true.
The presentation is killing it for me in terms of the story, though, because while I liked that idea, I like the idea like, yeah, there are these radio towers that are sending out signals, and every once in a while, people just go nuts, and like, first of all, the way it's presented and talked about is really awkward. I'm sorry, the way that these characters talk about these things that are happening. I know that it's trying to get the information across really quickly. But nothing ever feels like human conversation to me.
I think they telegraphed the only interesting part too early, too, when Prince Valium quite correctly says, wait, if this is by brain implant, then how did it get passed on past the first generation? And they just kind of gloss over that. And so you immediately know, oh, this is just their bullshit explanation for why people sometimes kill people. Yeah. It's not actually the case. And after that, there's no tension because you could predict everything that happens after that.
Yeah, and it sucks because kind of as you said, it did feel a bit more rushed for this one. They could have probably done something more fun with this, but they filled it with tea bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care. I like Riku. I like the dog. The dog just being a cute talking dog. Hey, that's fun.
Let's hold on. The radio broadcasts are telling me to kill him.
Oh, you too?
Yeah.
The radio broadcasts are telling me to hug that dog. Okay, let me say.
You mentioned you like the dog.
I like the dog.
I'm glad you like the dog.
The dog is the only The dog is the most interesting part out of all three of them because, first of all, he's a Samoyed, and I love Samoyeds.
Yeah.
Second of all,
a good boy.
Yes, he's a good boy. He is a. God. So I loved the delivery in the Japanese version of this, by the way. But I watched the episode where they go on the boat, and Shiro asks like, "What do you think? Should we go on there?" And then Sabat, his delivery on this is like, "I don't know why you're asking for my permission. I'm a dog." And then it cuts to the opening. I'm like, there's something about that that's really funny, and maybe there's some of that humor, that dry humor in Kino's that I'm not getting.
I think there is, honestly. I honestly wonder if watching it dubbed might be better for an English-speaking audience now that you mention it.
Yeah, I mean there are a couple things on this, like Black Clover. Oh boy, does that actually benefit a lot from its dub for multiple reasons. But when it comes to this show, I have watched like the first couple episodes in English, and it did help a little bit better. And again, I think it also helps with that problem where I was talking about the fact that nothing feels like actual conversation here. I never feel like I'm hearing actual conversations between people, and yeah, that's one of the things that kind of has killed Kino's journey for me. I feel like it's meandering. I feel like there's never actual human conversation. It's just plot points, like going through the motions of, well, this is this country, and here's what it's all about.
They can do a poor job of humanizing characters. Totally.
This show is at its best when, like in the Clock Tower episode, where Kino's master and the apprentice, when they do the Captain Kirk thing and just come in and fuck with this whole society.
Yeah.
Like, that's when it's interesting. This episode tried to do that at the end and like leave it kind of open-ended.
It was
where,
like half-assed, though.
But yeah, it felt so perfunctory. Like, do you think that they'll actually mend their way? Like, no, they won't.
No, they
You've
won't.
demonstrated over and over this episode that they are committed to this lie. So no, you've changed nothing. You've learned nothing. Nobody is enriched by this experience. Fuck it, move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like again, like the things that I really enjoyed about Kino's is when they go in and they poke the sleeping bear that is a country and just see what happens. Like, I always think that's interesting to me. This one was just...
That's another thing that I've had, like another problem I've had with Kino's journey in general is that it never seems to want to actually fully commit to certain things. Again, you either witness this country and don't get heavily involved. Like, again, it meanders too much for me in terms of how invested do these characters want to get, how involved do they want to get, and what are the ramifications? Because if they're going to get involved but nothing resolves and nothing changes, then what was the point? But if they don't get involved and we're just watching this thing from an outside perspective, I need it to be presented better to me. I don't know. Again, Kino's journey has just not done it for me the entire time. And as weeks go by, I keep understanding why more and more. I don't know. I don't know. Also, I will admit this. T's fascination with the grenades is actually kind of funny to me. There's a part of me that's kind of loving the fact that she's like holding the grenade and the baby and like, we're getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I did enjoy her holding the grenade and the baby. That was great.
It's almost like that character has aspects that set it apart from other characters instead of just being interchangeable with everybody else in this show.
Man,
weird.
Man, if T grows up to be the next Kino, I'm all about that shit.
Yeah, I totally get why people don't like this. It is not something for everybody. It's really weird and sometimes just bad.
Yeah.
Guys, you know what has lots of cool characters that I relate to that I love watching? Recovery of an MMO Junkie.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. It's got real good characters, 2 real good characters in particular in this one. This was oftentimes it's been the Morioka and Sakurai and Koiwai show. This was all Sakurai and Morioka. And I think that dedicating an episode just to that relationship was the right move to make at this point in the show.
Yes. It's been a long time coming that we needed something with just these two, because we had a bit of that in the beginning, like, oh, we kind of already know what the twist is. Then Koiwai was here to kind of give us a few more episodes of tension, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could not have gone any longer with this being held away from her, and the way they did it. You kind of mentioned the lighting. I really like the lighting between these two. I felt it was more like Sakurai focused, but thinking back about it, it does have a really cool dichotomy between the two.
Yeah. And so I think I fully understand why the mangaka introduced the original game they played. He wanted to give some legacy to these characters to help kind of transition to the fact that he's Lily. Because otherwise, I think Morioka realistically might have pulled away. I think that might have freaked her out a bit.
I wonder about that, but that said, I do think that the way they handled this, I'm really happy that she learned not only that he was Hearth,
yeah.
and Lily. That's cool. I'm really glad that they actually did both of them. I was worried it was gonna, because I think at the last week we were worried that this was gonna supplant the tension of, oh no, is this like? They did not belabor that at all, and I'm really glad they didn't.
Yeah.
And it does kind of give more weight to a connection between these two than just we talk online. It's, oh yeah, and also I knew you from forever ago. And when I think back on it, Japan is the size of California. Maybe I could buy this.
Yeah, and, there is, to a certain extent, when it comes to Japanese MMOs, yeah.
'Cause they're all region locked. Like you are usually stuck on the Japanese server.
Yeah, and not to mention, some servers are literally based by different regions of Japan.
Yeah, sometimes not prefectures, but they'll do like bigger. I don't know what you call them.
Kansai, like Kansai region and etc.
Yeah.
So it is not actually that far out that they had ever met each other before. Just having this like heavier relationship is kind of interesting.
I will say that I do really like the little touch that the previous MMO that they played. Everybody looks like little chibi-fied cherubs.
Yes.
That they look much younger, and it makes it into symbolically this like idyllic childhood experience. They were both in their 20s at the time.
Oh shit! I didn't even think about that. That's cute.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I really enjoyed that because even like they have all the child voices when they're talking, and it seems like this distant memory, but chronologically, it really doesn't seem. It's not that far ago or that long ago, right? It was like what, a year and a half?
It was. Yeah, they're
like
not
that?
too specific, but yeah, on the order of a couple of years ago. But because between that time and this time, in both of their lives, there have been some big milestones. Morioka quit her job. Sakurai, his parents died. Like,
yeah, huge bomb, by the way.
Yeah,
that was really big.
Yeah, so yeah, in terms of actual time, it hasn't been that long ago, but. Yeah. Big milestones like that kind of separate your life into before and after.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the year I turned 30, I changed jobs, I started a new exercise regimen, I broke up with a longtime girlfriend. So yeah, even just like a year after that, I can totally relate to that. Like everything was separated into before and after that year that I turned 30.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
And it was cool just as a lot of my personal experiences with like really cool touchy-feely MMO stuff was with Ragnarok Online, and that is a clear parallel to this, which I really enjoyed because they are all 4 heads tall and they're all chibi-fied, as you said.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed I don't know. I really like the presentation of it. It just was like, oh, I remember playing that game. It hit a bunch of nostalgic tones for me.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was anything else particular in this episode that.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
again,
yeah, you've said over and over, like, if you can relate to this, if you've had an experience like this, and it clicked with me, and I realized why I can relate to this, at least for this episode, which is my experience like that of knowing somebody online and only then meeting them in person, and that initial awkwardness and moving past that. Gee, what does that remind you of, Scott?
I don't know. Why are you asking me?
I was remembering... There's the scene where Morioka is talking on the phone Sakurai, and her two identities have now fully merged. And she's she's rolling around in bed in pure joy, being able to talk to this person that she's known online and now knows. And I realized that what that harkened back to for me is going to Anime Evolution, which is the first time I met The second time I met Scott in person, but the first time I met Nick, Lanny Pator, Curtis, Takahata, Lawrence, Masako X in person. And I remember standing in that hotel lobby. I think I'd already run into you, but I hadn't run into anybody else yet. And I saw Taka before he saw me. And it was that, like, okay, I have spent so much time talking to this person, but I've never seen them. I'd barely even seen his face, like, even in pictures. I was used to looking at this Skype avatar. And then he turns and he sees me, and there's that moment of, wait, is that? And then that light of recognition. Mm-hmm. And then he just comes over and gives me this great big hug, and that initial awkwardness is just washed away, and now it's like we've known each other forever. Because we kind of have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and that's why this is a show that literally really only could have happened, I feel like, in this year.
Yeah,
like
again,
this
absolutely.
very small time frame. And it's just, and I like shows like that, by the way. Some people are like, well, it's not timeless. I don't need timeless. I don't actually want timeless. I've got a billion timeless movies and shows, and
Yeah, I think there's room for timeless, and is also room for works of fiction that perfectly capture their time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's why, and I think, like, that's why Scott Pilgrim was so big to me. It captured a time in my life where I was like, yeah, everything about this, I understand this, I identify with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was Scott Pilgrim for me. So,
I do remember that time that I collected the 1-up and then I died later, but it was okay because I had the 1-up. And
don't be a dick.
never.
He doesn't
never.
He doesn't like Scott Pilgrim. Everyone shut him with me.
No, don't. Scott Pilgrim might be a little overrated and a little weird.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree. Actually.
We could probably have a whole podcast about that.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
But no, I love it. I just to sign off on my thought there. Yeah, I totally get that because my relationship with every single person in this studio, except for the guy over there behind the camera, started online.
No, that makes you special. Yeah, it's really something interesting. If you use a computer to talk to humans via any form of communication program, you will probably enjoy this.
let's talk about other things that we enjoy. Oh, shit, no, let's not. Let's talk about Black Clover.
Man, it is so weird. I remember the first couple of weeks we had so many different shows to talk about. And yeah,
we're already here. We're already at the big old skid mark on the underwear of FMK.
Man, the fact that you were finally just talking shit about this stupid show.
Because I had hope, Scott. Is hope something so bad to have?
Yes.
See, and this is what the old man says. But no, the thing is, I had aspirations because I heard enough people, and I don't put a lot of credence into what people say. Honestly, I really don't. You can yell at me how much you love whatever the fuck. I make my own decisions on what I like. I saw something here. I saw potential for something. I think at the beginning, just the concept that this could be interesting. This could have been something cool. And I was hoping it would just shirk all its bullshit. It would just drop all its stuff at the door once somebody died, once some big mission happened, once something really important happened, that it would just drop this veneer of absolute garbage it was putting in front. But it's not. That's just what it is. And if that does happen, it will be too late.
Here's the thing. The best that this show could do would still be one chapter a week, poorly paced, a whole episode goes by and nothing happens. That is the best it could have ever possibly become.
I know. And
it's not even that.
It's not, because we got to punch up all this shit and it's not punching up. They make it worse.
Yeah. So the interesting thing that I've gleaned from reading some of the manga is that one of the best parts about it was its pace, because it knew what it was doing, or at least it seemed like it did.
The fact that you said it was chapter 6 totally illuminates this whole thing for me.
We're on the halfway through chapter 6. Like, I was blown away when I read that, because or maybe halfway, maybe almost done with it, because they did show Mr. Jizz on his face.
Sure.
Yep. Only reason I'm sad this is dying is that I can never write an episode synopsis where I call him Jizzface.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things, so here's a small example of just how badly they fucked up the timing. In the previous episode to this one, we see Miss Tsundere Water Royal chick fire her attack at Asta, which, by the way, they call him Bakasta in the Japanese version.
Which is a joke.
Which, why the subtitles aren't using Dumbasta is way beyond me.
Oh, you mean stupid stuff?
That's gonna.
You mean
if they,
stupid stuff?
If they don't say Dumbasta in the dub, I take back everything nice thing I said about it. But so she shoots this water attack at Asta.
Yeah.
In the manga, it's the attack is fired, he reacts, and then it goes right at Magna. Like the next panel is it just turning and hitting Magna in one shot.
Mm-hmm.
I read that and I was like, wait. That got a.
Did I enjoy that?
That got a chuckle out of me. Why did that get a chuckle out of me? And then I started reading more, and I'm like, these panels are set up really well. The actual framing of them, and man, these scenes are going by really quickly, and they're going from joke to joke to joke. Oh my god, this anime sucks because it spends too much time with the characters.
Once you mentioned that all fell into place.
I see why people enjoy this, because it's not taking itself that seriously, because it's blazing through all these cliches, getting to the jokes one shot after the next. It's not something I would read because at the end of the day, I'm not interested in this, and maybe the anime ruined it for me. Maybe if I just read the manga, I would find something there, but no. But
I sort of don't think so. At least multiple times I have not been able to get into an anime, and then I read the manga and finally it clicks. Like, oh, okay, here's all the stuff that I was enjoying, but distilled because I can read through it at my own pace.
The only time I ever got that was Gantz. That is the only time I ever, because I saw that first, then I read it. I was like, oh, this is the good version.
Oh, yeah.
But I can see what you're saying. I can't get over Chapter 6. You could get to that in an hour. Like, wow.
yeah, no.
That is really something.
They added a lot of filler. Like, you think me, I'd be like, oh, Captain Yami naked, I'm all about this. Except it's not interesting.
No.
Like so the whole them going and betting all their stuff, that's in the manga as a conversation. He's like, yeah, we bet we bet a bunch of stuff and we lost, so you've got to go do this now. By the way, which in the anime makes these guys look even more pathetic.
It really
because
does.
in the manga, they just lose a little bit of money and they have to do the favor. No, in the anime, they go all the way as like, oh man, lost 6 months' pay, lost our clothes, and we have to do this favor. And they drag out the conversations. We see the actual betting happen. Why? Like, we're just trying to move things along and get to the good stuff, and the anime wants to drag that out.
Because the studio can't write.
And I didn't know that going into the manga, and I still felt like, oh my god, is that all that happened this episode? We got them betting, losing the bet, forcing them to go on this mission. Like, by the end of it, we get to the motorcycle, which is the only thing that mattered.
Yeah, that was the only interesting scene at all, and it was animated terribly.
It was animated terribly.
It looked so bad. I'm like, if this didn't look like such ass, I could see an inkling of emotional resonance, but
yeah,
holy shit.
Actually, this whole episode kind of looks like garbage.
It's so bad.
Guys, Black Clover can't hurt you anymore.
It can't hurt me
It's
anymore.
dead. We drove our knives into its heart, so now we can watch more Ancient Magus Bride.
Save me, Bone Daddy.
Good old Bone Daddy.
Holy shit, so much so we learned definitively that Ulysses is he is a dog that became a man, not the other way around. He had a dream of being a man.
So cool.
I
love that.
Yeah, he calls Isabel his sister, not because they are blood relations, because he was her dog, and he considered her father.
Which...
I know.
Good. Just the most heart-wrenching scene where he's sitting by her grave saying, no, she will be lonely if she wakes up and I'm not here. And the father, pulling him by his collar like, no, we gotta go. And that is how Ulysses, or as he is now called, Chisei gives him a new name when he becomes her familiar, now Ruth. That is how he became this fairy spirit, black church grim dog of the graveyard.
Dude.
Yeah.
I'm a little teary-eyed right now. No, that scene hit me really hard. Because, I have a thing about dogs, dude. Like, dogs and their love for their owners, and the fact that it was just this flat out, like I've seen dogs get miserable when their owners, like, leave them. Whether or not it's for a long time, they go on a trip or they die. And it's really tough for them. And to see it so anthropomorphized here as this person that cannot move past, it hit hard, and it was a beautiful scene. And it's my favorite. Ruth is my favorite part of this whole episode. Like, just all about Ulysses' character. I'm like, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about him when he was first introduced, because it kind of just felt like, are you just going to be one and done out of here as soon as this is over? No. And I think that was to his benefit.
Yeah, I was a little spoiled for that because he shows up in the prequel OVA.
Okay.
Yeah, because that whole thing is a flashback. Before it goes into the flashback, you see Elias' entire household, and he is there. He is part of that household.
I am so glad I didn't see that.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah. To wrap up my thoughts about Ulysses, Ruth, I'm going to call him Ruth from now on. God, that familiar scene is so good.
With
God, that is so good.
Yeah, the wisps of magical power that turn into chains, binding them together.
Yeah, just like them. I love them doing again, it's their presentation of magic that fucking sells it. They're like the incantations, the visuals. It's so surreal and all this. Oh, it's so neat. It's really, really. I don't know. It's really entrancing. I just couldn't look away. I was just like, oh my God, this is so fucking cool. And then when he finally rips Isabel's top off the fucking chimera, and you see his red eyes wisping back, I'm like, oh, it looks so cool. Great.
That said, I thought this episode was a little overfull. It was a little confused because I lost track of the number of times that I thought, oh, okay, I guess Silver's dead or defeated at least now. And then the next scene, he's back up like nothing happened. The praying mantis chimera gets taken apart, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that threat's dealt with. Oh, I guess he's got another one with an Isabel head. It felt like it was kind of rushing through, and it could have been simplified and streamlined
a little
structurally.
Bit. Yeah. I mean, the Isabel one got a good reveal. They talked about the fact that this kid's got multiple chimera. So when another one got introduced, I was not surprised. And again, I felt like it was a good reveal. But I agree, this episode did feel overpacked. Like they tried to make it more complicated than it needed to be. Like where he shoots him in the head, and he's like, that bullet has been enchanted, so it'll stop regeneration. It didn't.
Can I just mention how much I love that he actually shot the kid?
Yeah,
because
that was cool.
I was sitting there, I'm watching it, and I sometimes yell at the TV when I watch things. I'm like, shoot the kid! And then he's like, I'm gonna he says whatever, and pops him. I'm like, yes!
Yeah, no, this. One thing I want to say real quick. This show has no qualms with violence and disturbing imagery, but does not overindulge in them.
Yeah, it never feels exploitative.
Yes.
The moment we see that Charlotte chimera, I was like, oh, that's terrifying. That's actually really creepy and gross. And that is completely in line with this fucked up kid.
Yeah,
so
it's straight up got a vagina in its chest.
I know.
Its tarantula vagina is, in fact, the most disturbing thing about it. Also, I'm getting to the point where I can tell when something's going to be an insert song and actual background music, because the moment the piano was hitting in during that scene, I'm like, and she's going to start singing here.
I really, for all its problems, I will take those over nothing happening.
Oh, agreed.
Like this, I do agree that the pacing was a bit of an issue. I totally shared the, okay, he's dead now. Okay, he's dead now. Okay, he's leaving.
Yeah. The thing is, I knew he wasn't going to die, so the fact that they kept doing these things to debilitate him, it felt like they were just trying to. If they'd done it the one time and he regenerates, it's like, okay, you're gonna need special magic to kill him. You're gonna need something else. The fact that they kept doing it, I was like, don't. Why? I don't need to see this. Like, certainly there's some catharsis to watching this kid get torn apart because he's the fucking worst. But it's like, yeah, you're right. The fact that they kept doing it just kind of felt like they were trying to hit that same hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Now, here's something I'm curious if anybody else noticed. So the character that I've been calling Silver, entirely my nickname because he's not given a name for the longest time. Elias calls him, I'm not sure if it's Cartophilus or Cartophilus.
Cartophilus sounds right.
But since it's in the subtitles, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I do know how to spell it.
Yeah. Did you look it up?
I did. That is one of the names of a character in folklore more commonly known as the Wandering Jew.
Okay.
Which is a character in Christian folklore, never mentioned directly in the Bible or any other canonical source, but is somebody who supposedly taunted Jesus as he was carrying the cross, and Jesus cursed him to wander the earth forever.
Oh, so that because he mentions he's cursed by the Son of God. It's
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that is nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the only passage of the actual Bible that supports this character existing at all is Jesus at one point says, there are people living now who will still be alive when I come into my kingdom. And that is sometimes taken as, because originally that was thought like, oh, cool, Jesus is going to come back and the rapture is going to happen within our lifetime.
Yeah.
Obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's like the mythological explanation for that is, oh, he cursed this dude with immortality, so he doesn't get to die until the second coming.
That's really fucking cool, and I like how it played with his. He seems to have this kind of thread of I don't know my purpose, and that's really interesting to a villain for me, is someone who forgot why he's doing something.
By the way,
cool.
Speaking of the second coming, we'll come back in just a second. Agreed.
Well, I came.
The cat came back.
And so while I was doing that wiki dive, I also finally Googled, what is it? Pirium Murialis?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What they call him.
Yeah, turns out there's not nearly as much of a story behind that one. That is the name of a type of spear that Roman legionaries used to carry. Not used in combat, but you drive one point of it into the ground, and if all of them did that at once, it became a really easy to set up fence for their camp for the night.
Interesting. Is that the same spear that might have pierced Jesus or anything? Like same design?
Probably not.
Okay,
because
gotcha.
that would have almost certainly been a combat spear, and this was not that. It was only there to set up like hedge walls to protect their.
Okay.
So yeah, if there's any significance to that, I haven't figured it out yet, but. Boy, this is a show where you can go on a deep wiki dive on some of this shit, which I love.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's why I like when fantasy, as much as I love when people come up with their own fantasy characters and creatures, I really do love when people take from theology and mythology and mix them together and play with that because.
Oh, same.
Yeah. Also. I realized, so what this feels like is Full Metal Alchemist meets Ghibli for me, and I'm kind of all about that whole aesthetic.
That's a great description. I might have said something akin to that the other night, where it was like, this is British Ghibli, and it feels like it came from the 2000s.
Yeah, if you told me that this was, like, besides the art, but if you told me that this was by the same person who made Full Metal Alchemist, I would not have been surprised at all.
Yeah, totally buy it.
And again, I don't know what else to say about this show besides I cannot wait to see how Chise develops because in this episode, she's scary and I like it.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. That was really cool.
Yeah, I like scary Chise. I like angry Chise.
I love, because we mentioned so much about this relationship between the two is really only going to pay off as she comes into her own. And holy fuck, does she demonstrate that she is more than capable of doing that.
Speaking of Ghibli, she's got that hair thing going on. I'm like,
And I love, God, it just, also on a minor, like, I love the visual effects in this episode, real quick tangent. Like when Elias detransforms and he just kind of melts back to his cloak. And then when he reaches out to touch Chise and like, it kind of just swirls away, like his hand. It doesn't like kind of just disappear. It like swirls into this void, and it looks so cool.
I love it. She's like, she just ate a piece
yeah,
of me.
he ate me. That's so neat.
Yeah, and that was another brief but really cool touch was as he's about to transform back into himself, he says something like, Am I not monstrous? Am I not scary in this form? And one of those little relationship moments, she totally plays it off with a joke, like, no, but you probably couldn't get through the doorway, so you should probably turn back.
Yeah.
Like the fact that she is not intimidated by him in this monstrous form, that she still has exactly as much affection for him as she ever had in either his normal form or his super Bishonen pretty boy form that he puts on for an episode. She doesn't give a shit what he looks like. She has affection for him.
I like the fact that she doesn't like his human form all that much.
Yeah.
She's like, it looks fake.
Yeah.
She wants the bone daddy, dude. She's the bone train.
And it's such a sweet scene where she lays his head on him and he nuzzles her with his like his skull. And I'm like, wow, this is affection. Like on both sides.
The closing shot is her wrapping her arm around him.
Yeah, and I think this is, we've talked about how Elias has a certain amount of warmth towards her. Like, this was very much the payoff for that, where for all his talk about, oh yeah, I chose somebody who pretty much had to bond to me, I want to do this experiment and see if I can, learn more about humans, and, it's an interesting magical experiment to try to make you live longer. You realize, no, he cares a lot for her. Like, experiment successful. Turns out he is fully capable of empathy in this moment, at this time, at the very least towards her. And that is gratifying to see that come.
Yeah. So this was, while the episode definitely adds, and one of the things that I kind of felt was a dread ball on the episode's part, she got super stabbed.
Oh, yeah.
She got like extra stabbed. That was not like, if it had just been a knife in the shoulder, I might have buyed that. Like, I might have been able to buy that. Oh yeah, she's okay. She'll be fine. That was stuff just got severed there, and maybe it's her magic.
I was gonna say
I'm okay,
maybe that's it.
but they never really kind of cover why.
Yeah.
She's just sort of okay.
Yeah, a line of dialogue would have made some difference there.
Wow, her magic's really powerful.
Yeah, like or if she'd been like, I have it like in my back, like he's like, wait a second, she has stuff, and he uses it.
Mithril.
Yeah.
Because we know she has potions on her, and if he'd used one of those healing potions, and it'd been okay.
Yeah, or even like when she's hulking out with her magic, if that had been like, no, she can't handle this in her current state, she's gonna pay for this later, or something like that. But it's not enough to sink the episode. Just like one more thing that's a little clumsier than I'd like, but oh well, this is giving me more than enough good stuff to make it worth suspending my disbelief about some of those drop balls.
Yeah.
So
Yep, totally. I think overall this week was not the best.
No.
I think a lot of not stinkers, but definitely the worst we've seen from a lot of shows.
this wasn't the worst from what do you call it? Magus. What
do you think the worst episode was?
Probably one of the first three.
Yeah, the first couple.
Second episode I probably hated really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first two episodes could have been one, and I think it would have been much better.
Yeah. That being said, like not the worst episode of King's Game, but also not Girl on Fire. So
Yeah.
still
It was not up there.
Still bad. But yeah, I feel like
not-
everything else,
Yeah, not the worst episode of Garo by any means, but just after having it pick up last week, the most disappointing.
Yes, it felt like a really dropped ball. I was really excited for the fight at the end of episode 7, and then I got it, but
And it was
wasn't,
not great.
It wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, what's the typical meta talk? What's the typical mid-season slump period? Episodes blank to blank.
6 to 8.
Okay,
So-
so next week we should be seeing
Next,
some more highs.
I expect that next week's gonna be rough too.
Okay.
But I expect MMO Junkie next week to be good. I suspect Garo next week to be bad, and that's got me kind of sad.
Yeah, I fully suspect that too.
I suspect Magus next week is gonna be just Magus. Inuyashiki next week this is where like it has to be the game changer. This has to be where everything goes crazy.
Yeah, well, and I think with some of these, now that we're finally getting definitive, this is how long this shit is, I think with some of the shorter ones, like Inuyashiki, which is 11 episodes, MMO Junkie, which is 10, like...
Oh, wow, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for some of these, this is like the mid-season slump. For others, this is like, no, we're about to ramp up to some conclusions, and that will be really interesting to see.
Yeah, because I totally feel with MMO Junkie. That'll be fun. 10 episodes. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, some people have asked for stuff that's longer than 13 episodes that is going to continue into the winter season. What are we going to do? And I think we've pretty much decided anything that is still living at the end of the fall season will just be part of the regular lineup going into the winter season.
So I fully suspect that, yeah, probably in winter we'll be talking about Magus Pride.
Yep.
Has an episode total been confirmed?
I believe it was
20,
I heard 20 something floating around.
yeah.
I think it was 24.
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
Which, thank God. Like I am more than
No, if this show just keeps being itself, it will
Yeah.
easily coast those 20 episodes.
yeah. This is one of those episodes that like are one of those shows that I'm wholly okay with 24. I like 52. I felt like would have been too much. 13 would not have been enough.
Yeah, they know how to make the world something special. I'm always interested to see what they do next.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be really interested to see what they do next week when we snip it off again.
We're getting a lot of surgery.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm excited, but I'm also terrified.
Oh, we all are.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be something. Inuyashiki, baby, please. Baby, please.
Well, we'll find out next week. See you next time,
See ya.
guys.
Later, folks.